As we finish up the sketches for our tiny house project, we're going to get started on the CAD Vectorworks drawings. So please follow along with this video to get started on that project. A few people turned in their last project and they didn't have the page set up correctly. They didn't have the scale set up correctly. So pause this video as you get started on this and follow along to make sure that you have this set up correctly from the beginning. I'm going to start out with a new file right here and show you some things I'd like you to check as we get working. First, we're going to be putting these onto a poster size print, but most of our work on our design layers is going to be done on ASME A paper. Some people never set this up for their pencil project and it caused them problems. So I'm going to go into File, Page Setup, choose size unavailable in printer setup, and choose ASME A to work on this project to get started. The next thing I'm going to do is make sure that I'm in the architectural scale. 1/4 inch equals a foot. It's the same as 1 to 48 because there's 48/4 of an inch in 1 foot. So we're going to be scaling our house down to 1/4 of an inch equals a foot so it fits on this paper. Remember, if the layer scale doesn't show up in your view bar up here, we simply hit this arrow at the end of the view bar and make sure that we have a check mark next to layer scale. I'm going to get started in top plan, and I'm going to work in screen plane. Remember, if you don't work in screen plane, Vectorworks will treat your 2D objects like they're 3D objects, and it can cause you a problem. So set it up to screen plane. Now, to get started, all I'm going to do is draw a building lot. And for this project, we're just going to use a building lot that's 500 feet by 500 feet. And we're going to center that at 0, 0. Eventually, this will end up with either a grass texture or some people use sand texture because they want to have a beach scene. Some people have used snow, but you can see that that's a really big building lot compared to our page size, which is fine. That's what we want. All we're going to do with that building lot for now is let's just give it a green color because most people are going to end up having grass on it. And we're going to extrude it just an inch. And we're going to have the bottom Z of that at -7 inches. -7. Because our concrete slab for our project is going to be 6 inches thick. So there we go. We have a green building lot now that we're going to be working on. It's all extruded. You can see it's way bigger than the page. We'll end up cutting this down a little bit later. But for now, that'll be good to work on. Now what I'm going to do next is just use the polyline tool to draw the slab, including the covered porch for my cottage. So I'm going to use the polyline with the straight line tool selected. And for mine, I go over 26 feet. Now, of course, you're going to have to use your sketches to get these measurements. All I'm going to do is hit tab, 12 feet, enter to draw the line. I go back over 10 feet, so I angle the polyline the way I want it to go. Hit tab, 10 feet. This is where my covered porch area is going to be. Tab, 8 feet, enter. Tab 16 feet, enter. It should snap right back on the line. And what I'm doing is I'm checking to make sure that that number in the data display bar, 20 feet 0 inches, matches my sketch. If it doesn't, then something's wrong. If that said 19 feet 11.778 inches, one of my lines is crooked or there's a problem with it. But that looks good right now the way that is. Now, when I draw these in the snapping palette, and if your snapping palette's not open, it's just Windows palette snapping. Remember that we need the snap to object turned on, snap to angle turned on. I like to have the snap to intersection as well as smart points turned on. This first one we're going to leave turned off. Otherwise, it's going to try to snap to an invisible grid behind our page. Now, before I do anything else, I need to get that centered on the page. So all I'm going to do is center that polyline using the center selection button right here and the X and Y at 0, 0. And that's centered my building slab. Now, I'm going to go ahead and extrude that, but I'm going to extrude it instead of towards me, I'm going to extrude it away from me. So instead of extruding that 6 inches, I'm going to extrude it negative 6 inches. Instead of pulling this object towards me, I want to push it away from me, negative 6 inches, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. But I'll extrude that negative 6. Now what I'm going to do is just give that a concrete color. And here's why we wanted that extruded at negative 6 inches. If you look over here at my ruler, you'll see now that the top of my slab is right at 0. The concrete slab goes down 6 inches. I have a 1-inch thick layer for my grass material. And when I build the walls, they're going to be going from 0 up for this project. That's how we're going to get started on working on your tiny house sketch. We're going to build the concrete slab first. And then when we get going on to the next step, we'll be adding the walls in for this cottage. I'll show you an easy way to do that in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions, but please take a few minutes to make sure the page is set up correctly and the concrete slab is built up on top of this grass surface that we're going to be using for this project.